From the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, consider this with Cathy Wyatt, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Your sweet smile is warmer than the sun in the sky. The light in your eyes makes my world come alive. I'm feeling joy, feeling joy. Joy is in the air, alright. I'm feeling joy, feeling joy. Ooh, it's such a beautiful life.
Hi everyone, I'm Cathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 29th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, Give with Joy. Joining us to talk more about it is Major Dan Sawka. Major Sawka has been an officer with the Salvation Army for more than 20 years. He currently serves as General Secretary and Omaha Area Commander in charge of all metro area Salvation Army social services operations. Thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
You bet. I want to start by asking, how do you explain the Salvation Army to people?
Really, that's a big question. For me to be able to explain the Salvation Army, for me, it's my church. The Salvation Army is a religious organization. It's been a church and it's been around since for 160 years. So since 1865. But it's also when I was listening to the promo, when I was listening to how you explain the Salvation Army, it's a lifeline, and that's probably one of the best ways to explain the Salvation Army. A lot of times, people they don't know that they ever need the Salvation Army until they do. And when they do, we want to make sure that people know that they come to a place that they're going to be accepted, that they're going to be cared for, and that they're going to be loved. And that's really, to me, that encompasses everything about what the Salvation Army is.
Okay, thank you. Major Dan, walk us through the history of the Salvation Army.
How much time do we have?
I know. Maybe I should add briefly, but do what you need to do. Yeah.
So the Salvation Army did start in London, England in 1865 by a couple with the name William and Catherine Booth. William Booth was an itinerant Methodist preacher, and he had a desire for people to know about Jesus Christ, you know, the person that he followed. And he was in the area of London called the East End of London, actually the same neighborhood as Jack the Ripper, around the same time as that person actually, probably met the same people, quite frankly. And he just wanted people to know that they were cared for, that they were special, they had intrinsic value. And really from there, the history of the Salvation Army is so rich and deep. For over 160 years, the Salvation Army has been helping people and loving people and caring for people all over the world. Currently, we serve in over 131 different countries around the world.
Wow. Talk about Nebraska briefly. How many offices, how many locations do we have across the state?
So in Nebraska, the Salvation Army has 10 community centers, what we call core community centers. But the Salvation Army really has a presence in every county across the entire state of Nebraska.
Wow. All right. Your service area.
Sure.
Tell us about that.
So my service area, actually, if I can go large and then kind of bring it into the Omaha area. So my title is the General Secretary for the Western Division. So the Western Division comprises of all of Iowa, all of Nebraska, all of South Dakota, and one little county in Illinois called Rock Island County. Now, if we take that and we bring that down to where I serve most of my time, that is the Omaha Area Commander, and that is the Omaha metro area from Fremont, Nebraska, all the way over to Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Wow, you've been doing this more than 20 years.
Yes, ma'am.
What types of changes have you seen in this nonprofit organization over that time?
That's hard to pinpoint too. You know, in the 20 years that I've been a Salvation Army officer, there have been so many things that have changed. My wife and I are both ordained ministers in the Salvation Army, so we started our ministry in the Salvation Army in 2001 together. We went to seminary college together and were commissioned or graduated together. And over that time, we've served in 6 different communities across the 11 central states of the United States. And what I have seen change is just really the fact that the Army is trying to make sure that we are meeting the needs always. And I say that that's changed, but it's stayed the same. You know, our mission has never changed. We want to make sure that we're preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ and meeting human needs in His name without discrimination. So we've never faltered, and we've never moved off of mission. But how that looks in every community is going to be a little bit different, right? Because every community is a little bit different.
So talk about your service area now in terms of the need. What are you seeing today?
Well, what I'm seeing today is it's really, we've had a lot of individuals come to the Salvation Army that haven't had to come to the Salvation Army in the past. For instance, just this Thanksgiving this year, the Salvation Army has been serving Thanksgiving meals on Thanksgiving for the last 35 years in a program we call Turkey Fest, in which we try to ensure that every senior neighbor in the Omaha metro area receives a hot Thanksgiving meal on Thanksgiving Day. This last year, we had a 20% increase in that service alone. So 20% more of our seniors were in need and didn't know necessarily who to call or where to go. And so they called the one place that they knew would be a shield for them, and that was the Salvation Army.
You've had so many services to offer. We're going to put up a graphic for our viewers. And as we're doing that, I mean, I called this so many services, so little time. You're doing, just in addition to what you just described, so much for the community. As we're looking at this graphic, talk to us a little bit about those services that stick out to you, but really what the common thread is with everything.
So as the graphic is going through the screen, I want to make sure that I identify that many of these are going to be services that will happen throughout the state. So as I look at youth services, the Salvation Army is very big in youth services, especially in Nebraska. We want to make sure that all of our core community centers has youth services to be able to bring kids along. We have the Croc Center here that's in Omaha, family counseling, correctional services, Pathway of Hope. That's a beautiful program. Pathway of Hope is a program that's been around now for about 10 years. And so when we find people in crisis, a lot of times we don't know what to do. People who find themselves in crisis don't know what to do, and we want to make sure that we put them on a pathway of hope. And what that does is that helps the individual identify goals. What's going to make them successful? So again, it is tailor-made to that individual. Now, we know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? But we want to make sure that we're teaching other people what those needs are. So let's take away some barriers. Let's take away the things that are holding them up and build in the soft skills that some of us have naturally, but some just really don't. And so we give them a guide, a pathway that gives them hope so that they can have joy in their own lives.
Major Dan, I want you to tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the Croc Center. How would you paint a picture of that to somebody who's never been in there?
I would say, imagine the coolest gym and workout center ever. Sprinkle in a nice pool, give the kids a slide, and then offer music education, offer life skill building, offer multi-generational activities that brings everybody together, and then also provide a place for people to come and worship in a Christian format.
Wow, thank you for that. All right, there is a little campaign going on right now called Give with Joy. Tell us about that.
So the Give with Joy campaign is the National Salvation Army campaign for this year, and so as we showed the viewers when they came on that little ditty, that was I had a hard time not bouncing my foot. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I know.
But
I loved it. Yeah.
The idea about giving with joy is this: we've often heard that giving is better than receiving. And so we want people to know that when they give with joy today, when they give their change today, when they give their donation to the Salvation Army today, they're providing joy for other people in the way of making sure that there are toys underneath the tree, that there is a Christmas dinner that's on the table. Quite frankly, it will help provide funding for the Salvation Army, not only in the Omaha area, but across the state for the remainder of the year, to make sure that when people come to the Salvation Army at their lowest, when, again, they're using the Salvation Army as the lifeline, that joy will continue to be able to be given out throughout the year because of a gift that was given today.
All right, we're going to put up another graphic for our viewers. There are 3 ways, actually,
Sure.
that folks can give. Could you walk us through these, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of them?
Absolutely. So the first one is donate money. So as you are going along and you're shopping and you're picking up the last little parcels for Christmas, make sure that you're visiting one of our red kettles. The easiest thing to do is to just throw $1 or even some change in there. There used to be a saying that little change that goes in causes a lot of change that comes out. So if you can remember the Salvation Army and your monetary donations. Donating goods, there are several Salvation Armies across the Nebraska area, right here in Omaha, over in the Council Bluffs areas, where the Salvation Army actually has a thrift store. And so donating your goods to the Salvation Army, oftentimes those gently used or well-loved goods can be then sold in our thrift stores and go back to our ministries. And then volunteering. You know, the Salvation Army, we cannot do what we do without volunteers. You know, I'm a regular. Every day I put on the same uniform. I go, not the same uniform, I clean it every once in a while. I put on a uniform, I go into the office, and I make sure that I'm doing the best that I can. But the only reason why I'm able to do what I do is because for every officer, there's about 20 volunteers that are making sure that the mission of the Salvation Army is taking place and taking root in their community.
Okay, you mentioned the red kettle, and I think so many people, I mean, if you've walked this earth and not seen one of those, I would be very, very surprised.
Sure.
What is the story behind those again?
So the story behind the red kettle is actually a very interesting one. There was a Salvation Army officer that was in San Francisco in about 1891, I think is the date, and he saw a cast iron cauldron, and he decided to paint one red. And the very first Salvation Army Christmas campaign was keep the pot boiling. And he wanted to raise money to feed 1,000 homeless people in San Francisco on Thanksgiving Day. And that idea just caught like wildfire across the nation. So by the early 1900, that's when the first bell actually was introduced to the kettle ringing process. There was a young lady that was trying to raise money for the Salvation Army in New York, and she noticed that people were just walking by and not giving her any notice. And somebody said, well, just hit the kettle with a stick. And she said, no, that's just barbaric. So she spent 10 cents on a little bell, and she rang. And as people would come to the kettle, she would say, keep the kettle boiling, by ringing the bell. And so it stuck. Wow.
All right. In addition to the red kettle, what are other ways that people can give financially, monetarily to you?
Well, if you want to give to the Salvation Army in your local area, you can always just drop by one of our local Salvation Armies in your local area. So, you know, for those individuals that are living in Kearney, that are living in Grand Island and Hastings, and there's about 10 Salvation Armies across the Nebraska area, just stop in, drop by, say hello, and you can give in that manner. You could also locally here in Omaha area, you can go to the omaharedkettle.org and be able to give a safe monetary donation on the Salvation Army's website in that way.
Okay, thank you. We talked a little bit about goods, gently used, sometimes a little more used than that. When people are going through their homes, which they're going to be doing, getting ready for the holidays, and they may see a few items and wonder, is this what Major Dan was talking about, or would they prefer we maybe take this someplace else? What are some good examples of things that people can bring in that would be valuable to the people you're serving?
Sure, absolutely. So clothes are one of our number one sought after items. So if you have a shirt that just isn't fitting the way it used to be, or it's not your style anymore, we would absolutely encourage you to bring your clothing down to 2525 Dodge. downtown warehouse that the Salvation Army runs, and we collect those type of donations. Things that we call bric-a-brac or knickknacks. Quite frankly, almost anything you can think of is what we will receive at the Salvation Army.
Okay, and I do want to talk about volunteers.
Sure.
And I'm sure there would be a story or two that you might be willing to share with us. But if folks are looking for a way to get involved, maybe that's going to be a 2026 New Year's resolution,
sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking for in your volunteers, and what are some of the opportunities, and do you have expectations on the number of hours, that kind of thing? So let's start broad strokes and give folks an idea of how they might be able to help you that way.
So quite frankly, for an expectation for a volunteer, we are willing to we're willing to accommodate whatever you're willing to actually give. There's an old saying, give your times, talents, and treasure. So if a person can give their time, which is a treasure itself, that's one thing, that's one commodity we can never get more of, is time, right? So we want to make sure that we're value aligning a volunteer with what we need and what they want to accomplish. So really the sky's the limit. And the best way to really contact the Salvation Army for that is by going to SAL, so salarmyvolunteer.com. And we will try to align you with several different opportunities. In the Omaha area, we have our food pantry, which is at Burrow Center on 68th and Radio Highway. If you want to help families walk through for a food pantry order, that's a wonderful way to do it. If you want to help with some of our youth programming. Now, with youth programming, we do ask that some of our volunteers go through some background checks. We want to make sure everybody's safe, not only the participant of the program, but the volunteers themselves. And really, again, I hate to sound cliche, but really the sky is the limit. If you can come up with an idea, not too long ago we had a volunteer that wanted to completely de-weed one of our gardens in front of our. I'm not a gardener, but if that is something that brings joy, we want to just value align you with that.
Okay, thank you. So as you're 20 plus years having done this, is there a story that does come to mind in terms of someone who approached you or someone else in the organization and said, I'm really looking for a way to give back and I want to spend my time here? Is there somebody or maybe a small group, something that happened over that time that you thought, wow, this is why I do what I do, kind of that reminder?
There's a young lady, her name is Judy. And Judy has she's passed on. She was in my second appointment in a small little town in Indiana, and she came to the Salvation Army and she said, I want to make a difference in a single mom's life during Christmas. And we had this single mom come to the Salvation Army that needed assistance, and quite frankly, not to be too bombastic, but while we were taking her application for assistance, her water broke for her third child. And she refused to leave until she completed her application. At that point, my wife and I drove her to the hospital. And then that was the family that we introduced to Judy. And Judy said, I want to meet her. And we had to protect the identity of the individual. But we said, Judy, she does come to church. And if you'd like to come to church, she might be in the congregation while you're there. And so Judy came, and they struck up a relationship that was a lifelong relationship for Judy until she passed away. And she made a difference in all three of those children's lives. There was the oldest was a son, there was a little girl that was in the middle, and then there was the baby. And she became the adopted grandmother of those three children.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I understand after starting to do my homework for this program that you have something brand new this year, and before we put our video up, I don't want to do that yet because I know there's always a backstory.
Sure.
Tell us about Christmas Land, including how all of this came to fruition, and then when you're done with that great story, we'll put up a video so that folks can see what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So every year the Salvation Army does have a program called the Tree of Lights, that is our program for fundraising for this season. This year's Tree of Lights campaign chair is Travis Freeman, who is the owner and president of Bright Ideas Industries. And he has been a supporter of the Salvation Army for several years. And if anybody that lives in the Omaha area is driven by 90th and Dodge, which I've been told is the busiest intersection in the state of Nebraska, and you will see a 75-foot beautiful Christmas tree that stands at that location, and that has been the dream and the labor of love of Travis for several years for the Salvation Army. This year he opened Christmas Land. Christmas Land is about 70 acres worth of land that takes about 35 to 45 minutes to drive all the way around, where there are millions and millions of beautiful Christmas lights that will bring even the biggest of Grinches into the Christmas spirit. And so it is just, it's glorious. It brings you back to being a child. I mean, the only thing that can make it better than driving through is driving through with a cup of hot cocoa and a cookie. I mean, Santa himself does not have as many lights that are at Christmas Land. It is just, it's breathtaking.
Well, I want you to talk a little bit more about this individual, because I think oftentimes, and those of us who've been at the 90th and Dodge intersection know exactly what you're talking about with this tree. Sometimes things, Major, they just happen, and we look at them and go, wow, isn't that so cool? But for somebody to have been supportive of your organization, to have this dream, I would imagine, obviously it doesn't just happen. There had to have been steps that needed to be taken to get to this point. How involved were you, or were you at all really in the whole idea of it and bringing it to fruition?
So the idea of Christmas Land, from my understanding, talking with Travis, has been something that he's been dreaming about since he was in high school.
Oh my goodness.
So again, if you know the story about Bright Ideas, Travis Freeman had a love for Christmas from a very young age, and he wondered why Christmas decorations couldn't be brighter, why they couldn't be more festive. And so from the time he was in high school, which I don't want to put anything out there on Travis, but he's a little bit older than I am, so so high school was a while ago for him, but it finally came to fruition this year, and it's been something it's been a lifelong dream. The day that it opened, it was the very first group of individuals that were able to go through were friends of the Salvation Army and friends of Travis. And I remember driving through the windingness of the 70 acres, and he greeted every car, and he had the biggest smile on his face and possibly a tear in his eye. Maybe that was just a little bit of Christmas magic, but I said, Travis, you did it. And he goes, we did. And he himself was just a bright-eyed child on Christmas morning, just sitting in that beautiful place, seeing his hard work and his dream come to fruition.
Let's see what turning a dream into reality really looks like, Major. We're going to go ahead and roll this video now. And you were telling me that he's going to give some of the proceeds back to the Salvation Army, right?
Yep.
So this dream that he has, here it is in reality right in front of us. And did you say, how long does it take to get through this thing?
This takes about 30 to 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can just see the beauty, and every little section has a little bit different theme, but every corner that you turn is just another bright rendition of what Christmas really looks like.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, so for anybody out there who has a dream, talk to Major Dan here and we'll see what we can do to bring that to fruition. All right, so earlier you mentioned that the Salvation Army is 160 years old. You and your wife have been involved for more than 20 years. How do you feel when you think about, I mean, obviously you're doing so much good, but when you think about how much this is still needed in the world, and you mentioned it is in the world, right? Talk a little bit about what that feels like for you.
Well, if I can, I'd like to just give a little bit of a personal story. So the Salvation Army has been an organization that has not only been providing for my wife and I for 25 years, but it was an organization that I could say quite literally saved my life. My family's been involved with the Salvation Army since 1958. When my mother, who was also the child of a single mom, was living in housing authority in a small little town in Illinois, and she didn't have much hope. And the Salvation Army came through with a bullhorn and said, who wants to go to the Salvation Army and have fun? Who wants to go to the Salvation Army and learn some great things? And my mom and her two siblings jumped on a bus and went to the Salvation Army, and they were loved and they were cared for. Fast forward 25, 30 years, my mom took me to a Salvation Army, and she raised 3 boys on her own. And every summer I was able to go to summer camp. Every Christmas I made sure I had something under the tree, and sometimes that something under the tree was the Salvation Army. Was provided by the Salvation Army. And years later, I was given the opportunity to become a Salvation Army officer myself. And it's been a lifelong mission of mine.
So we're talking about Give with Joy today.
Yep.
So what is your greatest joy, Major Dan, in working with the Salvation Army?
My greatest joy is being able to see the smiles on faces. There are times in the world in which we have been given the opportunity to stand in the gap for people and to help people in situations that they maybe have put themselves in, or maybe they are just the victims of circumstances. And in my life, there has always been somebody that's represented the Salvation Army, and they've been a shield. The Salvation Army, one of our icons is a Salvation Army shield, the red shield. And I believe that each and every one of us are able to be a shield. A shield is not for the person that holds the shield, but a shield is typically for the person who is on either the right or the left of somebody. If you ever look at history and you've studied historical warfare, those who use shields, they're not protecting themselves, but they're protecting somebody else. And that's what the Salvation Army is all about. Salvation Army is all about making sure that people know that they are valued, making sure that people know that they are loved, and making sure that people know that they're cared for.
Thank you for that. All right, we have about a minute and a half remaining. The future of the Salvation Army. What do you see?
I think the future of the Salvation Army is bright. I really do. I think that the Salvation Army has been meeting a need for 160 years. And we've been able to kind of grow and evolve with the needs of the world. We have been trusted. We have been, for years, the Salvation Army of the United States has been considered to be one of the most trusted non-for-profit organizations. And we don't take that lightly. We want to make sure that people know that we're good stewards of the gifts that they give us, that we want to make sure that people know that they can trust us as a partner. And we want to make sure that people know that they are loved. In a world today that we see, we see so much that happens on TV, and we see the negatives. Sometimes it's just my job, as pessimistically bent as I can be, it's my job to pick some of that negativity out and say, but no, look at this. Look at the beauty that we have still before us.
Talking with Major Dan Sawka today about Give with Joy, here representing the Salvation Army and doing it beautifully, I might add. Folks wanting more information, we're going to put up a website and a phone number, salvationarmyomaha.org, or the number 402-898-7700. I want to thank you again for sharing your time, expertise, and all the service that you and your wife provide to this community and beyond.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks to our students who are working so hard behind the scenes, and of course, to all of you for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television in the School of Communication. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call the UNO School of Communication at 402-554-2600 during regular business hours. Or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.